According to the white supremacist coup, their position is the function of the assumption of base assets in its correct and proper order, which acknowledges the function of David's superiority to them from birth, as he was and always has been their better in every direction, qualifying their malice and contempt for their white nationalist terrorism, as their KKK contracts for the white supremacists has been engaged on these various exchanges, at which point the function of their terrorist operation actively destabilizing everyone connected to David would have led under the original agreement if Don Sr. had managed a competent agreement prior to his assassination, where he gets to live in peace somewhere else and Jackie gets to live with the siblings in peace somewhere else. The function of the insurance, according to that agreement, is primarily based upon David, at which point the function asserts itself to the position of restoring the original network, which would have actively invested into the caravan and its contract schedule according to the original estimate of David's title, at which point the exponential reduction of his title to the caravan's reconstruction on the basis of the insurance has at the divorce um, the agreement that Jackie would take nothing from the divorce and that it would go to David as he is the target of the white supremacists. And their entire point of getting the divorce is to flee away from the white supremacists, at which point they would have actively been protected by making the cosign on this agreement, generating the restoration of the $10,000 a month at the point of the established assassination, as Don Sr. would try and get clean from the tampering of their poisons, which would have led to the trigger for the assassination, triggering the insurance, triggering the acknowledgement of the network and the due process in favor of David's title, giving him the chance to survive by his contest against them on his ability to exist from those established preparations, making David's education exponentially prepared through the function for the specific purpose of being hyper prepared in the education for the contracts, which would generate the revenue sustaining the caravan and maintaining the good living conditions and the teachers and tutorings, as the terrorist operation would have actively maintained itself through the profits at the terrorist white nationalist operations, engaging in their attacks against the caravan, systematically surviving the exchange of forces in exchange of sustaining themselves, at which point the use of surviving and security checks would have been projected, according to the white supremacists, to have been superior to their attacks against them. At which point, David's caravan, receiving the primary malice and terrorist operations from the white supremacists, uh, and not against his family anymore, and his family would have been left alone, while they estimated the caravan would have sustained itself through the abuses, at which point it sustaining itself through the abuses is the accusation. David's superiority to the hate group is the accusation. And that has to include, by definition, the conditions provided in that arrangement, which assumes the degrading situations which have happened, which would have systematically been acknowledged, at which point the reduction by the damages through the war of attrition would have been able to sustain itself, or they are engaged in a fraudulent argument, at which point David, being their better in all ways, is the natural assumption. They have more people, they have more resources, they have more numerous think tanks, at which point their collective capacity to think of subversions were inadequate, according to their own assumption, to David and his base network, which by definition is the proof in validation and certification, again, another time, a second time, multiple times of David being the patriarchy and not the suppressed defamation status from the insurrectionist smear factory.